Good day. I am Regina May Cabiles, your instructor for Science, Technology, and Society. Our course code in this subject is GE 117 or General Education 117. Okay? So now, this will be the first discussion lecture that we will have in this subject. So let's first look into our table of contents. So what we will do for today is we will discuss all about lesson 1, which is the intellectual revolution that defined society. Okay? So there is another video that's prepared for lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. Okay, so all of this is under chapter 1, which is the general concept and historical events in science, technology, and society. Okay, lesson 1. So we have intellectual revolution that define, what does it mean that define? So what is our society? What is the progress of our society? Is because it is owed on what happened previously, no? So what we have today, what is the contribution of science and technology in the improvement maybe or the downfall of our society, no? So this we will talk about in this lesson. So our lesson objectives is first in this lesson we will discuss how the ideas postulated by Copernicus, Darwin, and Freud contributed to the spark of the scientific revolution. Okay? And then the second one is to analyze how scientific revolution is done in various parts of the world like in Latin America, East Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So first, in the scientific revolution, we must define what science is. Okay? So all we know that science is a body of knowledge that based on natural phenomena or facts. Okay? So that is science, pure science. Now, what is science when it is when you apply the society or the social sciences in it? Okay? So first, there are many definitions of science when we put society in it, no? First, it can be science as an idea, okay? And then it can be an intellectual activity, or it may be a body of knowledge, which is the usual definition of the science, okay? And then as a personal and social activity. So that is how we define science here in our course, which is Science, Technology, and Society. Now we will talk about what is a scientific revolution. So we talk about what is science, okay? Of course, anything that is under science, it is scientific. Now, what is our idea when it comes to mind when we talk about a revolution? Okay? So when you talk about revolution, okay, so what comes in mind is conflict or war or of course, after the revolution, there's always a change. Okay? So in when you talk about scientific revolution, there's no war, okay? But of course, there is a change. Okay? So this is a period of enlightenment when the developments in the fields of mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology, and chemistry transform the views of society about nature. Okay? Another is, in this scientific revolution period, the ideas are generated during this period enable the people to reflect, to rethink, and re-examine their beliefs and their way of life. No? And then another one is, it also led to the creation of new research fields in science and prompted the establishment of a strong foundation of modern science. Okay? So, Of course, these are the ideas, no, and the intellectuals that are involved in the scientific revolutions and their ideas. Okay, actually there are three. Okay, so in our objective, no, it was stated there that we will talk about Copernicus, Darwin, and also Sigmund Freud. Now we will start about Nicolaus Copernicus. Okay? So, Nicolaus Copernicus is born on February 19, 1473. It means he was born in 14th century. Okay? And then he was born on, the place is Poland, Torun, Poland. No, he was a mathematician and astronomer who proposed that the sun was stationary in the center of the universe and the earth revolved around it, or it is called the heliocentric model. No? Helios means sun and centric means the center. So he created a concept of a universe in which the distance of the planet from the sun is directly related to the sizes of their orbit. So, thus, heliocentric idea was very controversial. So we will talk later on why is this controversial, no? The heliocentric idea. So, but even though it is very controversial at that time, it was the start in the change of the world was viewed, no? And Copernicus came to be known as the initiator of the scientific revolution. So siya yung nag-initiate, no? Si Nicolaus Copernicus ng scientific revolution. So he is considered as the father of thought experiment. Okay? So he is the father of thought experiment. So he outlined two kinds of planetary motion. The first one is the orbits of Venus and Mercury lay inside the orbit of the Earth, thus closer to the Sun. And the orbits of Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter lay outside the Earth's orbit, thus further from the Sun. So from this model, he would work on the length of time it will take for each planet to orbit once around the Sun. So this is the picture of Nicolaus Copernicus. Okay? So he was born in 14th century. So now we will talk about his idea, which is the heliocentric model. And why is it controversial? Okay? So, because before his idea, which is the heliocentric model, it was believed that the Earth is the center of the universe. Okay? Which is the geocentric theory. Okay? So what is a geocentric theory? The geocentric theory believed that the Earth is in the middle of the universe. No? The moon rotates around it, the sun rotates around the Earth, and also the other planets and the stars. So that is what it was believed. Okay? So this was believed in almost 1,000 years. No? That the Earth is in the center of the universe. Okay? So, just imagine ang belief na to was really lingered, no? Talagang tumagal for 1,000 years. So, here comes Copernicus, no? It's a human nature that you will doubt what other says, no? When you are already have an established idea of what thing. So, for example, like this, you believe in geocentric, which means geo means earth and centric means center. Sinabi bigla ni Copernicus na no, it's not that. I have a evidence, a scientific evidence, no, that the Earth is not really the center of the universe. It is the sun. And the Earth is only one of the planets that rotate, no, orbits around the sun. Okay? So, ganun ang nangyari. So, yun ang dahilan kaya nagkaroon ng kontrobersya because of nagtagal talaga ang geocentric idea or the theory, even the religious entity, which is of course the Rome, no, yung Roman Catholic na church, na-adapt na nila ang idea na ang Earth is really the center of the universe. Okay? So, hindi lang ang simbahan ang nakalaban ni ano to tawag, ni Copernicus, also, yung mga doubtful din na mga scientists, co-scientists din na kagaya niya. Okay. Now, so, yun ang kwan ni Nicolaus Copernicus. Siya yung nag-start ng lahat. Anyways, before, kahit na nag-doubt sa kanya yung tao in his lifetime, tinry niya i-prove, no, na tama talaga ang kanyang theory, which is later on, it was accepted because napatunayan ng ibang scientists, no, kasi they did another experiment and it was really that the sun was the center, not of the universe but of the solar system, because the universe is very vast and there are many solar system in the universe, hindi lang tayo. Okay, remember that our sun is a star, no? There are many kinds of star. Actually, our sun is an average star, no? Maliit pa yan kung when you compare it to other sun. Okay, there are many sun there that is in the universe that are much bigger, no? So it has also a planet rotating and revolving around it because of the gravitational pull. Okay? So now we will proceed to Charles Darwin. Okay. So Charles Darwin, no, or Charles Robert Darwin, was born on February 12, 1809. No? Kung si Nicolaus Copernicus was born in 14th century, now 4 centuries, no, later, Darwin was born because he was born in 18th century. His place of birth is in England, Shrewsbury, Shropshire, no? So he is an English naturalist, no? Whose scientific theory of evolution by natural selection, we will talk about natural selection later on, okay, became the foundation of modern evolutionary studies. He joined his professor in a 5-year voyage via HMS Beagle, no? HMS Beagle is a boat, no, to Galapagos Island. Pumunta sila ng Galapagos Island. His non-religious biology appealed to the rising class of professional scientists, and by the time of his death, evolutionary imagery has spread to all science, literature, and politics. No? His renowned books are The Origin of Species, which is he published in 1589, no? And The Descent of Man, both became controversial. Oh, kagaya din pala kay Nicolaus Copernicus, naging controversial din. Because it challenged religious and unscientific ideas. But it also works brought about the observation and experiment. Oh, so hindi lang pala si Nicolaus Copernicus ang nagkuha ng controversya, no? After 4 centuries, nandito pumasok na naman si Charles Darwin. Okay, mamaya I will explain bakit naging controversial na naman tong work ni Charles Darwin. Okay? So, his book presented evidence on how species evolve over time and presented traits and adaptation that differentiate species. So, he has 2 books, no, The Origin of Species and The Descent of Man. He introduced ideas of organic life, including human beings, under the realm of evolutionary thinking. Yung evolution, no, the evolutionary, siya yung nag-start lahat. So, his unorthodox way of pursuing science gave more value to evidence-based science, no? It is a science marked by observation and experiment. Okay, so this is a picture of Charles Darwin. Okay? So, kakasabi ko lang, we will talk about what natural selection is. Okay? So, as you can see, on the image, these are finches. No? Ano tong finches, ma'am? So, these are the sample of birds that he gathered on the Galapagos Island. Ngayon, itong mga birds na to, they are the same, no? Yet, they are different when it comes to what? In their beaks, no? So, yung mga beaks nila, yung mga beaks, merong isa, it's thicker, bigger, okay? And then there are smaller and more pointy. Okay, so why is this? So, when Darwin collected this specimen, napansin niya, no? Because it was, of course, kinuha niya, tiningnan niya yung gut, no? It was, the gut was open, no? So what does it mean, the gut? Binuksan yung kanilang tiyan kasi patay na to eh. Samples na nga, no? Dry, maybe dry or maybe wet samples. It was preserved. Nakita niya na yung mga beaks, no? Yung mga beaks ng malalaki, ng mga thick beaks, their diets, yung mga diet means their food, no? Yung food nila are mostly nuts, no? Mga peanuts, no? Or other plant, no? Other nuts and legumes. And then the finches that are pointy and small, their diet usually is made up of insects and worms. Okay? So ngayon, nakuha na ni Darwin. Sabi pa niya, why? Then these two, no, these upper two finches which has a bigger beak, no, are their location is different, no, from these two here, no, na nasa baba. These two finches, no, that have small beaks. Because Galapagos Island is a scatter island, no, and then since there are not migratory birds, no, these birds, migratory birds are long range birds. It means that they can fly very at a very long distance. These are not, the finches are not long distance flyers, no, dyan lang, parang kagaya ng mga Maya maybe. Okay, so napansin niya na even though yung saan nang galing tong island, kasi scattered yung island eh. Saan nang galing tong island, itong dalawang birds na to, itong may malalaking beak, is mostly, there are many trees and many plants that produce legumes. Okay? And mga nuts. Okay? And then, ito naman tong saan niya nakuha tong dalawang finches na may maliliit na beak, is puro mga insects, very rich of insects, pero konti lang ang mga puno. Walang masyadong vegetation, no, yung mga puno. So, doon niya napansin. So, sabi pa ni Darwin, the objective of a living organism, which is, this is the reality, ha? What is the objective of the organism? Is to live, no? So, an organism can live if you will eat. Of course, that is the most basic need, the most basic necessity of a living organism to survive. Okay? So ngayon, now, why natural selection? Because these finches adapted, no? What does it mean adapted? These finches, etong mga finches na nanggaling sa island na maraming legumes, do you think na mabubuhay to sila nang maliit yung beak nila and then walang masyadong worms and insect on that part of the island, and then there are many nuts which are makakapal ang mga balat that needed a much more sturdier beak? No, they will not. So they will die. Okay? So that finches na hindi nag-adapt, no, hindi nag-adapt ng malaking beak, no, kasi evolution is a way of adapting, no, physical adaptation, no, to survive. Okay? So now, most probably, yung mga finches na yun, they perish, no, they die kasi hindi sila nakakain eh. Ngayon, yung mga finches na may mga sturdy na mga beaks, yun ang nabuhay kasi yun lang ang mga finches na kayang mag-access ng nuts and legumes. Okay? Another, sabihin natin, etong finches naman ng, etong finches naman na maliliit. Paano kung napunta napunta tong mga finches na maliliit sa lugar, napunta itong malalaki sa finches na maliliit na wala masyadong vegetation and nuts, but there are many insects and worms. So, that's the reason why may mga beak sila, no? May mga beak sila na pointed kasi kaya nilang manghuli at mag-access ng mga small crevices, no, to catch insects and worms. So, do you think na kayang mabuhay ng malalaking beak? No. Eventually, without eating, because there's no access to food, it will perish also. So, yan na yung idea ni Charles Darwin, no, of natural selection. Natural selection means without any adaptation in a particular place, the organism, the living organism will die. Okay? So now, that is his overall idea of natural selection. Okay, so ito, natural selection in action. So ito, medyo na, this is, alis naman tayo sa actually, yung finches, it was really, yun talaga yung observation ko. And then this is a very, animation, no? Cartoon, which explain natural selection. Okay? So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. So, a giraffe, we know that a giraffe has a very long neck. Okay? So, the giraffe has very long neck because their environment, no, they are actually they are eating leaves, no. But then the species of the trees, no, there is very high. So, ang nangyayari, the trunks are very high. Of course, the leaves are on a very, very high elevation. So, for example, like this, no. So, the adaptation of the giraffe is all the giraffe that are shorts, of course, they cannot access to the food, which is the leaf here in this tree. So later on, of course, without food, it will perish or die. Okay? Of course, this gene, no, which have the short neck, will not pass through the other generation. So ano yung mapapass through sa other generation? Yung may mga mahabang leeg kasi sila lang yung nabuhay. Of course, pag sila lang ang nabuhay, sila lang ang manganganak. Okay? And then, pag sila ang manganganak, sila yung merong gene na napass sa another generation. And that gene, that characteristic na long ang kanilang neck, mapapasa from generation to generation. So, ano nangyari doon, ma'am, sa short neck? Wala na, kasi since patay na siya, hindi niya na mapasa yun. Okay? So, that is a natural selection in a simplified manner. Okay? And then another. Okay. So, now we have natural selection. Natural means natural. Okay? So, it means that the nature who is, controlling, no? What is happening. But there is also what we call artificial selection. So, what does it mean, artificial selection? Like, for example, the dogs. Okay? So, there are many kinds of dogs. Merong Chihuahua, may Labrador, may Askal, no? May mga Saint Bernard, which malalaki. May Poodle na, may mga curly ang kanilang hair, no? Chihuahua, they're very small. Okay? So, to sila? Are they different dogs? No. Actually, they have the same scientific name. All that dogs, sa breed lang siya nagkaroon ng difference. So, bakit to ganito siya, ma'am? Bakit nagkaganito? Bakit nag-iba yung kanyang, ang itsura ng mga aso? Like the Dalmatian, black and white. No? Like the Labrador, brown lang siya, black and brown. No? So, ganon. Kasi because of artificial selection. So, bakit ma'am artificial? Kasi it was because of the intervention of the human being. Okay? Tayo ang may intervention dyan, not ang tao. Why? Kasi kapag meron tayong ayaw, for example, no, may aso, o ayaw ko nung time na ng ancestors natin, pag masyadong matapang ang aso, patayin. So yung mga tame na aso which is friendly sa tao, yun yung mga yun yung mga nabubuhay kasi mas gusto yun nila. So, these practices was passed through and through our generation. So, ang nangyari, mas gusto ko itong masyadong hairy na aso. So, ito lang alagaan ko. So, ang nangyari, yung ibang aso na hindi hairy, mamamatay. No? Or, maybe, gusto ko yung maliit, kagaya ng chihuahua. So, since may intervention ng tao, kasi alagaan, of course, mabubuhay yan kasi inalagaan talaga. So, yung mga iniwanan lang, yung pinabayaan lang, mamamatay yun. So, ang nangyari, nagkaroon na ng, there is a isolation of a characteristic. So, yan ang nangyari dyan sa mga aso. Hindi lang sa mga aso, kundi pati sa pusa. Because of human intervention. So, that's the reason it have an artificial selection. Okay, so that is all about Charles Darwin. Now, we will proceed to Sigmund Freud. Okay, so Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856. So, pareho lang sila ni Charles Darwin, 18th century sila pinanganak. So, siya, kung si Darwin pinanganak sa England, Sigmund Freud was born in Czech Republic. Okay? In Austrian town of Freiburg. So, he is known as the father of psychoanalysis. Now, later on, we will talk about what is psychoanalysis. He's a psychologist, medical doctor, a psychologist, he's a physiologist, medical doctor, psychologist, and influential thinker of the 20th century, or of the early 20th century, So, he focused and refined the concept of the unconscious, infantile sexuality and repression. Okay, we will talk about infantile sexuality and repression. And he proposed a tripartite account of mind structure. Tripartite means three. Okay? Which we will talk about it later. So, as all part of a completely new conceptual and therapeutic frame of reference for the understanding of human psychological development and the treatment of abnormal mental conditions, the multiple manifestations of psychoanalysis as it exists today. So, it can, in almost all fundamental respects of trace directly back to Freud's original work. Dati kasi, before kay Freud, kapag nababaliw ka, ang kuwan sa'yo ng tao is na-possess ka ng evil spirit. Okay? So, later on, nung nag-start kay Sigmund Freud, nag-start yung mental analysis, which is psychoanalysis, which explains the behavior of men. Okay? Kung bakit ganito siya, kasi meron nangyari sa kanya pagkabata, he was abused, so yan ang dahilan kaya lumaki siya. So, all of this we owe from Sigmund Freud kasi nagkaroon na ng analysis and observational method in the behavior of man. Okay? So, sa time na to, napansin nyo, sa time na to, actually, hindi na masyadong ganun, it was a controversial, sa time ni Freud, but hindi na ganun hindi na ganun kakwan yung tao, kasi nung time ni Freud kasi, 1856 siya pinanganak, and then of course, let's try 20 to 30 years, kasi syempre naging doktor siya, so let's, 1856 plus 30 years, that will be, 1886. So, long time na to, malapit na 19th century. Medyo open-minded na yung tao nung time na to. Hindi kagaya ng time ni Darwin at ni, ni Copernicus. Kaya naging controversy talaga. So, etong time kay Sigmund Freud, naging, hindi naman tinanggap agad ng tao or ng scientific community ang kanyang idea, but, hindi na ganun ka-hostile ang, ang pagkuha ng kanyang idea, kahit bago, hindi na ganun ka-hostile paano nila dinidil, not that hostile already, kasi medyo open-minded na yung mga tao nung time ni Sigmund Freud. So, he made a significant contribution through the development of an important observational method known as the method of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis means psychological analysis. Okay? So, his method was unorthodox. So, unorthodox means Hindi to unorthodox means evil or whatsoever. Unorthodox means nung time niya, hindi to ginagawa usually, pero parang may originality siya. No? So, ginawa niya yon. So, he focused on human sexuality and the evil nature of man. Okay? According to Wiener 2016, his method of psychoanalysis was proven to be effective. So, imagine nyo 2016 na yan. And yet, nung 18th century niya pa ginawa ang kanyang method and history, no? Lahat, but yet, 2016, talagang effective ang kanyang ginawa. In understanding some neurological condition that were not understood by medicine at that time. Okay? So, this is Sigmund Freud. Okay? So, nakikita nyo ang kanyang, the clothing pa lang, no? In the clothing of Sigmund Freud, nakikita nyo na medyo nasakwa na siya. In that time, medyo modern na, no? Unlike the two previous intellectuals that we have tackled earlier. So, this is the tripartite, no? Yung kanina, no, I am talking about the tripartite account of mind structure. So, sabi tatlo. So, because of the three is the id, ego, and the superego. So, what are these three? No? Sabi pa kasi ni Sigmund Freud, no, the mind, no, as a individual, the mind structure is divided into three, which is these three, no, the id, ego, and the superego. So the id first is the unconscious, no, pleasure-oriented and selfish. It is driven by pleasure principle, insatiable instinct present from birth. So this is the id daw, is the part of our mind that kwanto masyado pleasure-driven, no? Very, very insatiable, no? In the present from birth. So, the ego is the conscious, no? Kung kanina unconscious, eto naman conscious. This is the rational, driven by reality principle, balance conflicting demands of the id and the superego. So, ibig sabihin, ang ego is in between the id and the superego. And the last one is the superego. Last part of personality to develop through socialization, which of course included the concern with morality or the right and wrong. So yan yung kwan ni Sigmund Freud in the observation, no? Okay. So this is what I'm talking about the developmental, no, of psychological development. So, this is what we call the infantile sexuality. So, the infantile sexuality is there are stages. No? There are stages. Excuse me. There are stages, no, like this. The stage is, there are 5 stages that is part of the infantile sexuality which we are undergoing. For example, we have the oral stage, which from birth to 18 months, okay? So, we have the anal stage, which is from 18 months to 3 years, okay? And then we have the phallic stage, from 3 to 6 years. And then we have the latency stage, which is from 6 years old to puberty. And then we have the genital stage, which is 12 and above, okay? So, infantile sexuality and repression. So, according to Sigmund Freud, it is natural, no? These infantile stages are natural. So, in the oral stage, no, in the oral stage, in the oral stage, so from birth to 18 months, in the oral stage, we are mouth sucking, chewing, and biting. Okay? So, the major development there is weaning off. Weaning off means breastfeeding or bottle feeding is okay, no? So, now, what happened if you will repress this, no? So, yan ang tinatawag ni Sigmund Freud is repression. Repression means pag hindi yan na-satisfy, no? Hindi yan na-satisfy. Pag hindi na-satisfy ang iyong oral stage, there is a tendency na paglaki ninyo, no, when you're an adult, you have a tendency to smoke and overeat, which leads to obesity. Okay, so yan yung kanyang, that is a part of his psychoanalysis. Okay, another is, for example, when in your 18 months to 3 years, this is the anal stage. Okay, so you are doing bowel and bladder and elimination. So for this, you must have a proper toilet training. So if you don't have a proper toilet training, when you are when you reach a age of maturity, the it mean it will show, no, in the orderliness and messiness. So ibig sabihin dito, pag makalat ka daw at messy ka, no, it means na hindi na satisfy ang iyong anal stage. Okay? Kasi hindi maganda ang toilet training o hindi ka na toilet train. Kaya paglaki mo is you are messy or orderly. Okay? So this is also this is also applicable also to other stages. So kagaya nitong phallic stage, so pag hindi siya nakwan, this is nag-focus siya sa coping in incestuous and sexual feeling. So pag hindi siya nakwan, hindi siya na-satisfy, it will have a deviancy and sexual dysfunction maybe. Okay? It will manifest in his later life. Okay? So ito, latency. Okay? Latency means the dormant sexual feeling. Mas maganda to, ito wala talaga siyang wala siyang effect, no? But the 4 may effect siya sa later life pag hindi siya na-satisfy in the early stages of the life, no, of a child. Okay? So that is a part of the that is a part of the work of Sigmund Freud in his psychoanalysis. Okay? So that's all. That will be the end for this discussion of the scientific revolution, which are led by 3 people, no, the 3 intellectuals, the 3 scientists, which are Nicolaus Copernicus, Charles Darwin, and Sigmund Freud. Okay? So I will end this discussion now. Thank you. God bless everyone.